Every investor faces a moment when fear takes control, when the charts turn red and the headlines scream panic, when people who were shouting about moonshots are suddenly silent. Right now, the crypto market is in that moment. Again, and XRP holders are feeling it more than ever. People are asking the same question: is this the crash that ends it all? Should I sell, should I hold, or should I run? But the truth is, most investors don't understand what's actually happening. What looks like a crash to some is often a correction to others, and what feels like the end is sometimes the perfect setup for the next beginning. Welcome back to Crypto Equation, where we break down the truth behind the markets and show you what others won't say. Today we're talking about the fear that's spreading across the XRP community and how to survive it, how to think clearly when everyone else is panicking, and how to avoid making the mistakes that destroy portfolios in moments like this. Because make no mistake, if you don't understand the cycles, you will fall for the same traps that wipe out thousands of investors every time. Let's start with the reality: no asset moves in a straight line. Every major crypto project in history has experienced brutal corrections before massive rallies. Bitcoin fell over 80% multiple times before reaching new highs. Ethereum dropped from 4,000 to 800 before becoming a global ecosystem. And XRP has had its own share of violent swings over the years, but every time it fell, it also rebuilt stronger. That's not a coincidence, it's the rhythm of adoption. Markets move through phases: disbelief, hope, euphoria, and despair. Right now, we're in that last stage, the phase where weak hands leave and patient hands prepare. But most people never make it past this point because they can't control their emotions. They see the price drop and think it's the end, but the truth is volatility is the cost of opportunity. Every crash shakes out those who never believed in the first place and rewards those who understood what they were holding. That's what's happening with XRP right now. The headlines are negative, the influencers are divided, and the uncertainty is high. But underneath the noise, the fundamentals haven't changed. Ripple is still expanding its global partnerships. Banks are still testing the technology. Governments are still exploring blockchain integration. The system is still being built. The crash you see on the screen is emotional, not structural. What we're experiencing isn't the death of XRP, it's the purification of the market. The difference between those who lose everything and those who gain everything is perspective. Panic is a reflex, conviction is a decision. If you understand the mission behind XRP, then you know it was never about quick profits, it was about long-term transformation. You can't expect to change a trillion-dollar financial system without turbulence. The old system won't go quietly. It will fight back with regulation, manipulation, and fear. Every headline about crashes and collapses serves a purpose to push out retail investors so institutions can accumulate at a discount. It's the oldest play in finance. Create fear, buy low, build quietly, and sell high once belief returns. The ones who understand this are the ones who profit. That's why surviving the crash isn't about timing the bottom, it's about mastering your psychology. Because the market feeds on emotion. When everyone is greedy, that's when the risk is highest, and when everyone is scared, that's when the opportunity is greatest. XRP's current price doesn't reflect its true potential because its utility is still being developed. But every partnership, every regulatory win, every adoption announcement brings it closer to intrinsic value. The real crash isn't what happens to the price, it's what happens to the investor's mindset. When people lose belief, they sell early. When they sell early, they miss the recovery. When they miss the recovery, they never come back. That's how markets move wealth from the impatient to the patient. The question isn't whether XRP will crash, it's whether you'll survive mentally when it does. Because there will be corrections, there will be uncertainty, there will be moments that test your conviction. But those moments are the bridge between now and the financial freedom you're working toward. Think about what's happening behind the scenes. While retail investors panic, the biggest players in finance are preparing for the next phase of the system. Ripple continues to expand corridors in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Central banks are moving toward digital currencies that require interoperability. Global settlement systems are being redesigned from the ground up. And the asset that can bridge all of that is XRP. The world doesn't see it yet because these systems take time to launch, but the foundation is being laid right now. When it goes live, price will follow function, and the volatility you see today will be replaced with stability driven by real-world usage. That's the part most people miss. They confuse short-term noise with long-term signals. Every time XRP dips, people scream crash, but those same people disappear when it recovers. Because in the end, the ones who win aren't the ones who predict the next candle, they're the ones who understand the mission. XRP isn't a meme coin, it's an infrastructure play. And infrastructure doesn't crash, it evolves. Every dip in history has been temporary, Every recovery has set a new base, and every base has led to higher ground. That pattern won't stop because the mission hasn't stopped. But to benefit from it, you have to stop reacting emotionally. The most dangerous move right now is not the market crash, it's panic selling out of fear and regret later when the market rebounds. We've seen it again and again. Investors who held through 80% drawdowns in Bitcoin became millionaires. Those who sold in fear never recovered. The same principle applies here. The XRP crash isn't something to avoid by running, it's something to endure by understanding. That's how long-term investors win. Because crashes are not destruction, they are redistribution. Value doesn't vanish, it changes hands. During every major correction, strong hands buy from weak ones. History shows it clearly. The biggest wealth transfers happen during downturns, not rallies. So if you want to avoid the XRP crash, the real crash, then you need to protect your mindset, not your balance. You need to remember why you invested in the first place and what XRP is actually building. When you focus on that, the noise fades and the opportunity becomes clear again. When you understand what you're holding, you stop seeing crashes as disasters and start seeing them as opportunities disguised as fear. Every dip is a stress test to see who truly believes in the mission and who was only here for a quick profit. The people who panic are the ones who never took the time to understand the system they invested in, but those who see the bigger picture know that this is how markets reset. It's how strong foundations are built. What you're seeing right now with XRP is not collapse, it's cleansing. The weak holders leave the stage while the real investors take their positions quietly and patiently. That's how every financial revolution begins, in silence, not noise. While retail traders fight on social media over daily price swings, the institutions are positioning themselves for the next wave of digital finance. They know exactly what's coming because they helped build it. Ripple's technology is being integrated into systems across the globe, and that's not speculation, it's documented reality. Central banks and international payment networks have already tested XRP's potential as a liquidity bridge. The moment regulation gives full clarity, those tests will turn into adoption. When that switch flips, XRP's price won't move in small steps, it will reprice instantly because global systems don't scale gradually, they scale by necessity. You can't move billions through a system designed for millions without increasing value per unit. That's simple economics. And that's what's happening beneath the surface, while everyone else is distracted by temporary volatility. The truth is, the market always overreacts in both directions. When prices rise too quickly, people believe it will never end, and when they fall, people believe it will never recover. But neither is true. The reality lies in the middle, where real investors live. They understand cycles, they understand timing, and most importantly, they understand patience. That's what separates speculation from strategy. If you want to avoid being crushed by the XRP crash, you need to think like a strategist, not a spectator. The spectators follow emotion, the strategists follow structure. And the structure of this market is clear. Regulation is aligning, institutional adoption is building, and global liquidity is forming. The volatility you see is just the noise of transition. We're moving from one financial system to another, from analog to digital, from slow to instant. And the bridge that connects those systems has to exist before the transition completes. That bridge is XRP. Ripple has already proven the technology. Banks are already saving time and money by using its systems. The lawsuit that once created fear is almost fully resolved and clarity is finally in reach. Once the barriers are gone, there will be no reason for major financial players to wait. They'll move fast because they've been preparing for years. The retail market will call it a miracle, but those who understand will know it was inevitable. The crash was never a failure, it was a filter. It removed the noise and left behind those who actually believe in the mission. Those are the people who will benefit most when the next phase begins. Because every crash is followed by recovery, and every recovery leads to new highs. The ones who hold through this phase will be the ones the media calls lucky in the future, but luck has nothing to do with it. It's conviction, clarity, and discipline. 3 things that can't be faked. The key is to stop focusing on what's happening today and look at where we're going. XRP's purpose has never changed. It's here to connect global liquidity, and that mission is becoming more important every day. As inflation rises, as economies weaken, and as nations race to modernize their systems, the demand for a fast, efficient, neutral bridge asset will explode. XRP isn't a choice, it's a necessity. It's not if it will be used, it's when it will be used at full scale. And that's why surviving this crash is everything, because this is the phase that determines who participates in the next era of wealth creation. Right now, people are fearful, and that's exactly why opportunity exists. Markets reward courage, not comfort. When you understand that, you stop fearing corrections and start preparing for what comes after them. Think about every major investor you admire. They all say the same thing: buy when others are afraid. Sell when others are greedy. The reason that works is because fear blinds people to opportunity. What feels like risk to the crowd looks like value to the informed. That's the difference between panic and preparation. If you understand what XRP represents, you realize this isn't the time to exit, it's the time to learn, refine, and strengthen your conviction. The financial system is going digital, and that process won't reverse. Every payment network on the planet will eventually need interoperability, and Ripple's technology is already positioned for it. When that infrastructure goes live, XRP's function will shift from potential to performance. It will stop being an investment story and start being a necessity story. And necessity always creates value. The crash is temporary, but the transformation is permanent. You can already see hints of what's coming. Countries are testing digital currencies. Ripple is partnering with governments to explore cross-border solutions. Payment providers are experimenting with instant settlement models. Every one of these steps leads to the same conclusion: a connected financial world powered by distributed technology. And at the center of that web sits XRP. You can ignore the noise and focus on the structure because that's what tells you where the future is going. The current correction is emotional, not fundamental. The fundamentals are stronger than ever. So how do you avoid the XRP crash? You don't run from it, you rise above it, you study it, you understand it. You use it as an opportunity to grow while others panic. Because in the end, the crash doesn't destroy value, it reveals it. It shows who really understands what they're holding and who was just here for the ride. When the dust settles and the market stabilizes, the people who held strong will be rewarded not just financially, but mentally, because they will have proven to themselves that belief is stronger than fear. They'll realize that XRP's value was never about a number on a screen, it was about the revolution behind it. A revolution that's still unfolding right now, quietly but relentlessly. The crash is a chapter, not the story. The story ends with XRP integrated into global finance, powering cross-border settlements, connecting economies, and redefining how the world moves value. That's not a dream, it's the direction we're heading in. So the next time the market dips and the headlines scream panic, remember this moment. Remember that every crash in history looked terrifying in the present, but obvious in hindsight. Remember that conviction during chaos builds the kind of wealth that comfort never can. And remember that XRP's journey isn't measured in weeks or months, it's measured in milestones. The ones who understand that will look back on this crash not with regret, but with gratitude, because they'll know it was the moment they held on when everyone else let go. This is Crypto Equation, reminding you that belief beats fear every time. The market can crash, but conviction doesn't. The system is changing, and the future is already written. The only question is whether you'll still be holding when the reset becomes reality.